Welcome to the Check Your Art podcast, a place where we discuss the intersection of faith and creativity.
Join us each week as we explore new ways to use our gifts to glorify God and inspire others. Hello, welcome back to the Check Your Art podcast. I'm Arnold.
And I'm not Arnold.
And when most people know us by Megan, and what's your name again? Don't remember.
Yeah.
Starts with a J, I think. Gemma?
Yeah.
Gemma?
Gemma.
Gemma.
Jasmine.
Oh,
I think I like Gemma better.
that's what it was. Yeah, no, Gemma's way better. You should legally change your name.
I think I might.
Okay, tomorrow. Do it.
Yeah.
Pop off. Next time you hear from us, it's going to be Megan and Gemma.
Yep.
Yeah. I might even change my name to Arnold.
Hey.
Arnold. Like this show.
Yeah. This is really good.
Full circle moment, really. Oh, man. Well, this is a part 2 now of our pricing your work, money type talk.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're going to talk more about stewardship or stewarding your money well. Before we even jump into that, I hate myself.
Yeah.
How you doing? What projects are you working on?
Dude, I'm psyched to be alive.
Love that.
This week, I'm actually singing at a church that I used to attend. So I'll be working on that all week.
Heck yeah.
And by that, I mean like practicing, getting my voice back to, I guess, like singing patterns.
Yeah.
Because I've been like, singing as I do, but not any sort of like vocal training / exercise. So part of my weekly rhythm when I do worship is to kind of, I have to dive into the entire set, not just the song that I'm leading. So kind of dive in with the Lord spiritually and like biblically on the songs that we're going to be singing, just for the appreciation of it. So it's like real worship and not just singing words.
Yeah.
But then also like the vocal practice of going back into a place where I'm going to be belting into a room full of people. And so that's very cool. And that is the project that I'm working on. Everything else will be on pause. Just because I have a 4-day week because I'm going to be in a wedding also that weekend.
It's a lot.
So it's full schedule.
Full day. Full dates.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Yeah. What about you? How are you? What's you working on?
Pretty good. Working on YouTube stuff for my channel, which I need to edit my videos still. Very behind on that. But I am working on it.
Yeah. And that's what I asked. I didn't ask what you completed. I asked what you were working on.
This is so true. So true. Also trying to finish up a course that I paid for a little bit ago. So that's going to be done soon. And then I'm trying to do like a collaborative Instagram account with one of my friends who's also an artist. And it's like going to be a lot of fun. We have all these ideas for prompts, like weekly prompts and stuff. The only issue we're running into is that she has access to a feature that not a lot of people, if anyone, in the US have access to. Mm. It's quite literally a group account on Instagram, kind of like Facebook groups, but for Instagram. And people can post there, whatever. So it's really cool. But I can't even see it. She created it. I can't see it. And it's so weird. So we're going to shift a little bit and do something else, like still the main idea. But yeah, that's kind of what we're working on figuring out. It's called the Sunday Art Club. Very cute.
That is very cute.
Yeah. But yeah, that's so good. Great.
Yeah. Big things popping, little things stopping. T.I.
I
think.
I don't know.
Neither here nor there. We're talking about stewarding money, part 2 of Money Please. And we're just going to be going over like what stewardship looks like from a creative perspective. I think sometimes it's easy for like, I don't know, more, how do I want to say this? Roles that are less creative. What's the opposite of that?
Tradition?
Sure. More traditional roles in the church. It's easier to create a budget and to steward well because it's a little less abstract. So we're going to be kind of trying to create a framework for what stewardship looks like in a creative sense. And not just serving the church, but also just like if you're a Christian creative, and I think this will also apply to non-Christian creatives, honestly, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. And so we have a few kind of scriptures that relate to this. You may have heard them before about like how to use your money well. So I can read one, you can read another if you want. One is in Luke chapter 16, verse 10, and I guess even 11. And it says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches, like true riches in heaven? And so, so this is really good because it is like a true test of your character, you know? Kind of like if you lie in small things, you're going to lie in big things too. Yeah. So with the same thing with like money, if you pay for something that's like $20 or $50, which is on the lower end, I mean, not like super low, but if you pay for something that's $50, are you going to treat it well? And if you pay for something that's like $300, are you also going to treat it well? Because that really shows your character, shows like how you handle possessions and investments.
Yeah, I think also just maybe in a church context, or at least the way I've seen this scripture in my life, has been like, God is not going to trust me with an entire congregation if he can't trust me with a youth group. Yeah. You know, like I think some people might think it's a little goofy that I'd be like, yeah, I'm a worship leader. And they're like, oh, like at what church? I'm like, well, I lead like the youth, you know, ministry at like 6 p.m. But then it's like, eventually I want to lead a church. Yeah. But you don't just wake up and you are able to do that. Yeah. And like you can be trusted in that. And there's also like things to learn in the cracks, but that's for another time. The second scripture we have is from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. And it says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so this definitely applies because when we're stewarding, we don't want to be thinking about necessarily just the monetary value or the monetary cost. We also want to think about the heavenly value and the heavenly cost. Because if I'm trying to buy a guitar, I can buy a guitar that looks very, very cool, but may not necessarily do everything I need it to do and complement my voice well. And that would be storing up treasures on earth. And I would be very cool for about 60 years, and then it wouldn't matter. But taking into consideration maybe a cheaper guitar that is better for my voice and does everything that I need it to do, that may not make me look like the most dope worship leader on the face of the planet. That's storing up treasures in heaven, because that guitar does not go with me. And God already thinks I'm cool. So what else do you need?
How cheesy.
Yeah.
But true.
He told me that.
He told you? Is that in Hesitations 22?
Yeah. Next.
It's a bad joke. I use it too often.
You have used it a lot. So anyway.
But yeah, no, that's good. Like it with every purchase that you make in your business, in your hobby, in life, I mean, you should also consider how this is going to, like, if this is you investing in your worldly possessions or in your heavenly possessions. And I know like food doesn't count, okay? I mean, you gotta live, you gotta eat. But stuff that is a little more extracurricular, like a guitar or like art materials or supplies or, you know, courses, like educational courses, those are all things that aren't necessities, but they are something that we spend money on because we like doing them and we want to do them well. I mean, as Christians too, like the idea and the goal is to keep Christ at the center of everything that we do. And that doesn't exclude your hobbies or your business. If anything, he should be at the center of that as well. And because it would be pretty strange, I think, if you, in every other aspect of your life, had Christ at the center, but in your business, you're like, nah,
Yeah.
I'm actually just going to do my own thing. Yeah. So, yeah, this is like, it applies to literally everything. Well, maybe not literally, but a lot of things. And so, yeah, is there something you wanted to say before we get into like more things to consider?
No.
Great. Sweet. So a few things you could consider when you're making a purchase for your business or your hobby is, can I afford this?
Baseline question.
Baseline.
If you can't buy it twice, you probably can't afford it.
Ooh,
That's my general rule.
it's a good rule.
It applies most of the time. I think there's like certain circumstances where God will be like, buy it.
Do it.
And you have to. But I think generally I'm kind of like, if I have to set up a whole payment plan for something I shouldn't need a payment plan for, probably don't need it.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things that I think about is when I broke a guitar. I was leading on Sunday. I came in, I set my guitar down, and when it was time to start practice, I opened up the case and it was just broken. And I was like, very cool. Cannot afford another guitar. But because Jehovah Jireh, I ended up with 2 more guitars just gifted to me because that one broke. Because I knew I couldn't afford it. I could have made something work, but I would have had to sacrifice necessities. Yeah. So I think like also when we think about money and stewardship, we also have to be thinking about the provision of God in those things as well.
Yeah. And like with you kind of mentioned this with your 2 guitar scenarios, like a more expensive one and a cheaper one. With art supplies, like I could buy the paint that's like $5 per tube, but instead I get the one that's like $1 because at the end of the day, I care more about what I'm making and how I can make the materials at my disposal work, rather than having a name brand paint. And yes, there are definitely differences between like the name brand supplies compared to like more generic brands. And sometimes there is a point where you need to invest in something a little bit better. And if it ever got to the point for me where like the paints that I buy just aren't working the way I need them to, then I would invest more. But right now they're doing great. Yeah. And so I don't have a reason to pay for anything more than like $1 to $2 per bottle. And that's just a small example. And I think, well, this actually goes into the next question. So do you want to start the next one?
Yeah. So I also like to consider if this is if this is an investment, how long will it take for me to see a return? So I think in my context, it's kind of like, if I'm going to take this vocal class, if I'm going to buy this guitar, if I'm going to invest in a pedal board, which I never have because I don't need it, how long will it take until I see a return? And I think that can be monetary, but it can also just be like, how long will this last? I invested $200 into a guitar that broke in 8 months. That's okay, because it wasn't the $2,000 guitar that I wanted. Yeah, which would have been tragic. Yeah, I think $200 in 8 months is totally fine. Yeah. I also think that experience has a lot to do with that. Yeah, I don't play guitar nearly as much as I should. And so I think like for someone who loves playing guitar, invests a lot of time and skill into their guitar, like buying something more high end is going to be a smart decision because they're going to use it. I never do that because I know that my guitars 6 out of 7 days of the week sit in the case. Yeah. And I think that can also translate to like art. or if you're someone who is only painting all the time, you can probably afford something more high end because that's all you're doing.
Yeah, like nice paintbrushes are one of the biggest things I would recommend if you do like to paint and want to continue doing it, because it makes a difference. You buy the cheap ones from Walmart or wherever, and then you get like a really nice one. You're like, man, where has this been all my life? So yeah, totally agree. Like if it's something that you do a lot already with the cheap stuff, then you can, I think, justify a purchase that's a little bit more for the same type of material, but just better quality. And then kind of a follow-up question to that before we even get into our final point is this still financially viable even if there is no return on this? So that is something that's a little bit harder to, I think, conceptualize, because it's easy to be like, well, yeah, if I pay, I don't know, $500 for this guitar, it should last like a couple years. But if you're like, if I pay $500 for this guitar, what if it doesn't work out? You know what I mean? It's hard to, you don't want to think about that, but like, would you still be improving your craft by using it, whatever material it is that you bought? Would you still be learning something with this purchase? And if so, and if it's something that you're like still committed to, I think it is worth it.
Yeah. I think when I was starting like worship, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this residency. But oh my gosh, what if God decides that he's not going to let me be a worship leader? And I think that's kind of come true a little bit, wherein it's no longer my career field, which is what I assumed was going to happen. I don't think it's forever, but I think when I first started considering, oh, I have to go into something different for a little while, I was like, gosh, but I've spent so much time and money and I've moved for this twice. You know, was that still financially smart? And I think at the end of the day, the answer is yes. But I just want to throw in that example because it's like kind of abstract when you think about, is this still financially viable if I'm doing this artistic thing? Because I think like people go and they're like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And then you're a lawyer. You have to be a lawyer in order to pay for law school.
Pretty much.
But that is not always the way it works out creatively.
Yeah. And in your example that you just gave, you now still have experience and you have a lot of like knowledge now. So much so that you are starting your own worship collective, and which is what SWOCO is. And SWOCO, which is Selah Worship Collective. But it, so yeah, like experience is very valuable and education is very valuable. And this is, we'll lead into our next point because I'll give an example. But the next question is, am I buying this to improve the quality of my craft or for status? So like, for example, if I mainly, not me, but if someone mainly plays acoustic guitar, does it make sense to buy an expensive electric guitar for the occasional times it'll be played? Probably not.
Borrow someone else's.
Yeah, borrow someone else's. Yeah. Because, I mean, unless you're like, electric guitars made anything, I don't know.
You probably don't need it.
You probably don't need it.
You probably just wanted to look cool on your wall. But no one cares. It's Veritas? Sorry, I don't care.
So, and like, the example I was going to bring up is, and this even relates to the previous question, is like, I bought this class. I mentioned it actually earlier this episode. I bought this program that will help me run a therapeutic art business. How to price your work, how to structure the classes, how to do all the behind the scenes stuff and get started, even the legal stuff I learned. And so that is something that like the amount that I paid for, I have not yet seen a full return on that investment. I guess technically broke even with that. But what's nice is that I don't necessarily need to right away because I still am employed full time. and it's something that is going to take time to build.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty rare that you will spend a good chunk of money on something and then get a return within a year. Not sometimes that does happen. But when you think about business related things, like most businesses don't make a profit really for the first 5 years.
Yep.
And so that is something that to just consider when you're doing investments like this. Again, it's not impossible to make a profit within your first year.
Yeah.
But something, just as an example, like I've not been able to see a full and like return on that investment yet, but I'm still learning a ton, and the knowledge I'm gaining is very valuable. And I would do it again. Like I wouldn't pay for this specific course again, obviously, since I already have it. But it's something like I would continue to invest in myself.
Yeah, and I think that we want to discuss like reasonable improvements in paying for classes or schooling and what impact that has on our expenses. Like if I chose to go to school for 4 years, if I chose to go to seminary and like do a worship leader focus, that would really change, how much I'm able to charge, what I can expect, but it also elevate my knowledge. I chose to do a residency, because I don't want to go to school, and B, because I think I value the experience for residency over like going to seminary and getting a degree that way. Just not into having student loans. But it makes me more valuable than the candidate who is just like, oh, I've never led worship, but I'd like to give it a shot.
Yeah.
But I think also, like I said, I moved twice to gain the expertise that I probably could have by going to school.
Maybe.
But I mean, that's just the way that I chose to do it. And I think that is valuable as well. There's a lot of ways to get to where you want to go. And I think that that's another thing that you can ask God about, because God just straight up told me, he was like, okay, you want to do this? We're going here. And I was like, cool. Love that for me. But I think like what works for me is not going to work for everybody else. There are plenty of great worship leaders who went to seminary.
Yeah.
Plenty of great worship leaders who didn't. And I think even with therapeutic arts, you've been doing a great job even before this class, but you've chosen to, okay, this is going to have a positive impact on my business. I can take on this expense. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And I also think that comes in stages. You decided you wanted to really commit. So here you are.
Here I am.
And I think that's a good question too. It's like, how much am I willing to commit? And if you're not that heavy into it, are you okay with losing $500 or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, is that chump change to you?
Yeah. And if it is, can you give we will drop our PayPal, Venmo, Cash App.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, it gives a good just kind of closing thought of like, yeah, I've definitely also, we didn't mention this, but definitely pray about each financial decision you make.
Yeah.
Especially if it's more expensive. If it's something small like paint,
One paint,
or even 10 paints that are $1 each, you could probably just not have to pray about that necessarily, unless you have a problem like a collection that you just really, whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. More expensive investments, definitely pray about, and just see if God is telling you yes, or if he's telling you no, or if he's like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like you'll run into something and I'll let you know if you're messing up or something. And I think that's a lot of times how God talks to me. It's not an immediate or very direct or clear yes. It's more of like well, just try it. See what happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you if you're messing up.
Yeah,
I got you.
I'm in charge of your lives. You're prioritizing me. We're good.
Yeah.
So I think like that's a pretty important part. And and I think yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we have, really. But if you have questions, if you want more advice or feedback or whatever it is, hit us up in the DMs.
HMU.
That's right.
Me.
Yeah. And me.
And me.
Yeah, we're on lots of places.
Yeah. The Instagram,
The Instagrams, the TikToks, the
YouTube.
YouTubes. We have an email.
We do have an email.
Check your art podcast at Gmail. That's right. And yeah, let us know what you think. I mean, you can either comment if you're watching on YouTube, or you can DM us or email us. Just let us know what kinds of investments you've made in your business.
Or if you have questions.
If you're thinking about making an investment and you're scared to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let us know, and we'll talk you through it. We want to talk to other people. Again, so sick of talking to each other. Please help us, save us. This is a cry for help.
Yeah. I'm actually going to unlearn English.
Just so she can not talk to me. What language are you going to learn? Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Klingon. May the force be with you.
Oh, that is so... Okay.
Backward.
Wrong. Yeah. That's fine. That was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
If you like watching podcasts, we're on YouTube. If you're more of a listener, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and elsewhere in the internet ether.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where we share shorter clips and fun little bloopers.
Okay, bye.